Be Still by Emmet Fox, an excerpt from Power Through Constructive Thinking. The Bible teaches spiritual truth in many different ways. It gives direct teaching about God, as clear and precise as any book on philosophy that ever was written. It expounds the great message indirectly through historical narrative and by means of biographical studies, for the Bible includes the most wonderful and interesting set of human biographies that ever was written. It contains an unmatched collection of essays and treatises on the nature of God and the nature of man, the powers of the soul, and the meaning of life. Consider John's opening section in the Gospel, for instance, or the 11th chapter of Hebrews, or the 12th and 13th of Corinthians 1, or the 5th, 6th, and 7th of Matthew, to name only a few. Each of these chapters, in a different way, gives direct and simple teaching of the truth unsurpassed in any work outside of the Bible. But it is in its prayers and treatments that the Bible is transcendent. It contains a large number of the greatest prayers ever written, beginning, of course, with what we call the Lord's Prayer. Prayers the like of which have never been found elsewhere, for they go right down to the depths of the human soul, meeting every need that can arise and providing for every possible temperament and any conceivable contingency. In fact, they cater to all sorts of conditions of men. Among all the beautiful and heart-searching prayers of the Bible, there is none that surpasses the wonderful poem that we call the 46th Psalm. This is an inspired treatment that will enable you to overcome any kind of difficulty if you can tune yourself into the level of consciousness to which it attains. It is the supreme Bible treatment against fear. Now, the object of prayer or treatment is just this very raising of the consciousness, and a good prayer is the instrument that enables us to do it. We need not expect to begin our prayer with a realization. If we already had a realization, we should not be needing the help of the prayer. We do not need a step ladder to reach a height on which we are already placed. The ladder is employed in order to enable us to raise ourselves step by step to a height above the ground to which our muscles alone would never carry us. And so a good prayer is a step ladder upon which we may gradually climb from the low level of fear, doubt, and difficulty to the spiritual height where these things melt away in the light of truth. Our psalm begins, as do nearly all the Bible prayers, with an expression of faith in God. This is extremely important in practice. You need to affirm constantly that you do believe in God, not merely as a vague, abstract concept, but as a real, vivid, actual power in life, always available to be contacted in thought, never changing, and never failing. It cannot be too strongly emphasized that it is not sufficient to take this for granted. It is not sufficient to accept the truth once and for all, or once a week. You must continually reaffirm it in thought and in words if necessary. You must constantly remind yourself that you do accept this position, that you do believe in it, and that your convictions is good enough to build your life and your hopes upon. All this is treatment, and very powerful treatment too. It is treatment that really changes the soul by clearing out those subconscious fears that are the cause of all your difficulties. And so the inspired writer starts his prayer by saying bluntly, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. You will see that he allows himself no doubts at all about this. He does not dream of taking up the timid, almost apologetic attitude that some modern divines seem to think appropriate in dealing with God. He says firmly that God is, that he exists indeed, and then he enumerates 3 facts concerning God. He says that God is our refuge. He says that he is our strength. And he says that he is a very present help in trouble. This verse is really tremendous, is it not? If we get through the crust of familiarity that tends to hide the real meaning from us and study these words with a fresh mind, we shall be amazed, I think, at all that they imply. Note that he says that God is our refuge. He does not say that such may very well be the case, or that it is a pious hope upon which we are justified in leaning, but that plain and plump God is our refuge. Now pause for a moment to consider all that God is. Review briefly at this point the principal aspects and attributes of God as you know them, and then consider that this infinite being is our refuge. That is to say, this unlimited power of wisdom and love is a refuge to which we can go in any kind of difficulty. Many devout souls have thought of God as a distant potentate, dwelling in the skies to be dreaded and feared. But the Bible says, on the contrary, that God is a refuge for those in difficulty. It then says that this omnipotent power is nothing less than our strength. This brings the idea home still more vividly. God is not merely a matchless power that will come to our rescue, but he will actually be our own strength, operating through us to the overcoming of difficulty when we call upon him in the right way.